October is Giving Month at All Saints Church. We want absolutely everybody in this room and everybody who's streaming and all of our members to put their money on the line to make this place happen. And what we do is kind of not saturate, but introduce you to a lot of inspiring stories of people who give and why they give. I'm going to ask Alec and Stephen to come and stand at this podium, this lectern, and tell you about them. These are two wonderful friends who joined All Saints about 2 years ago. They're going to tell you that story. And it was my great pleasure to officiate at their marriage this summer. So will you now please warmly welcome Stephen and Alex to tell you their story.
Thank you. Good morning. So my story at this church starts about 2 years ago, Christmas Eve 2013, in a seat just over there on the back row. Now, Christmas Eve holds a lot of emotional weight for me. It's a day of great significance. And in the sermon that night, Ed spoke of a man named Alan Turing, who you may know from the movie The Imitation Game. Alan Turing was a British mathematician who broke the Nazi Enigma code, and in doing so, he saved 14 million lives. And yet, despite that, he was prosecuted in 1952 for homosexual acts. Unrecognized for his work and facing jail for gross indecency, he bit into an apple he had laced with cyanide, and he died aged 41. Ed celebrated the fact that earlier that day, Queen Elizabeth had rightfully granted Turing a royal pardon, and we celebrated that the world is just. Through my streams of tears, I heard Ed say that this church is a place for everyone, regardless of sexual orientation, regardless of anything. And it was the first time that a place of religion had welcomed me without a footnote in small print that said, "but on our terms." As I mentioned, Christmas Eve holds great meaning for me, and it's because of my maternal grandmother, affectionately known as Nan. Now, my Nan was full of love, life, laughter, and compassion. She seized every opportunity to be with friends and family, sometimes leaving her kitchen mid-baking in order to live life to the fullest. At 80 years old, she was never happier than being the subject of her grandchildren's latest prank. And yet she also lived a very tough life. Her husband sadly passed away at a very young age, leaving her to raise a family of 3 children as a single mother. She was, and to this day, she remains my hero. Her faith was the rock that she clung to, and she encouraged the family to join her at church whenever they could. And indeed, the only Christmas present that she ever asked for was that we join her at Christmas Eve for midnight mass. And the name of our church, by the way, back home is also called All Saints. So, of course, I happily obliged, but I was never allowed to receive the bread and the wine made holy because, well, this was the Church of England, and I hadn't been baptized or confirmed. You remember what I was saying about footnotes. Christmas Eve 1994, and I joined Nan at the altar for a customary blessing. We returned home at 1 a.m., and in her true spirit, she messed around by having a pillow fight before climbing the stairs to bed. And that was the last time that I saw her. She passed peacefully during the early hours of Christmas morning, which that year just happened to be the Sabbath. Since then, the Christmas Eve service has been profoundly important to me. It's a way to honor and connect with her. So imagine how I felt when on that service here in 2013, I was invited to fully partake in the Eucharist, and in doing so, to have a moment of spiritual reunion with her. It was proof to me that I was truly, unconditionally welcome here. No footnotes, no small print. And of course, it applies to others too. When Alex and I were married here 2 months ago, a dear friend of ours, a strong atheist, was invited to join us here at the communion rail. And you know, she was as giddy as a young girl on Christmas morning, just to be receiving communion, to be part of the celebration, to be included. So why do my husband and I pledge, and why do we encourage you to do the same today? Well, it's really quite simple. To us, All Saints really means all races. It means all walks of life, all ethnicities, all sexual orientations. It means all colors, all shades of faith. It means all members of the human family. That's why we pledge, and that's why we're here today. Amen.
So, if you believe that there should be a faith community like All Saints Church, where the inclusion and the welcome should not have any footnotes on it, I just want to ask you to raise your hand in a glory wave right now. All right? Absolutely. Thank you very much. Now, if you raised your hand, that means God wants you to pledge to All Saints Church so that you can financially make this place happen so that another Christmas or another service, somebody will feel the glory of Jesus's, God's, the universe's welcome. It's because people were giving prior to 2013 that resulted in Stephen's epiphany about himself. And now he and Alex have joined the band to make that possible for other people. Giving is not just for our own benefit, but for the benefit of the whole world that needs this counter-narrative that says everybody's included, no footnotes. This is the delivery system for you to have more glory in your life. This is a pledge card. It's in the pew rack in front of you. Take it with you today. Be praying over it, because God, I promise you, is going to say to you, I want you to give, and I want you to give so much that you feel it and that you feel better about giving. This chart in the middle goes up to $20,000. Maybe God wants you to give $50,000, $75,000, $100,000. Maybe it goes down to 2 cents, and maybe God wants you to pledge 1 penny. All is welcome and all is needed. So, before the end of October, make sure that you, who were waving your hand in a glory wave, pledge to make All Saints happen.